you don't like Led Zeppelin or the Stones, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Hello and welcome to the Need to Know Music Show with me, Ronan MacManus, here on Switchbox TV. And today I'm joined by the frontman of a legendary rock band, the Melvins, who last year released his second solo album as King Buzzo. The exciting news is that the Melvins have a new album out on the 26th of Feb, which is tomorrow as we speak. Please welcome King Buzzo himself, Buzz Osborne. How are you doing, Buzz? How are you?
Good. All good.
Excellent. So yeah, we're going to say we sort of 2020 was a kind of unproductive year for a lot of musicians, but you've managed to get an album out. What was that? How did all that come about? Was it already recorded beforehand and planned for that time? What else were you up to in 2020?
2020 was a disaster.
Yeah.
A total disaster. I mean, I had a solo record come out, but I had a gigantic tour planned around it. It was a solo record that had myself and the highly talented Trevor Dunn playing bass on it.
Yeah.
And we had a huge tour planned that was going to take us all around America and Europe and probably South America, Australia, New Zealand, maybe even South Africa, all shit canned,
Oh, man.
I was going to tour from May until November.
Oh, man.
And all that was down the drain as a result of the pandemic. But, the thing about that is it's like, everybody's having hard times through the pandemic, not just me. I mean, that's just how it is. But so that was down the drain. That pushed my album back until August. So, and I didn't do a single show as a result of it, which certainly hurt the album itself, which was a pity because I spent a long time working on that thing and was really looking forward. I set aside the whole year pretty much to promote it, and was really looking forward to doing a lot of work on that. And then my bandmates, Dale and Steven, had planned a whole lot of stuff with the Steven's band, Red Cross, that Dale also plays in. So they were going to do a lot of European tour, a whole US tour, all kinds of things while I was away. Yeah. That was all down the drain. And so then at the end of last year, then when I was done with all of that touring, then we were going to put out this album, which is the Working with God album, was going to come out at the end of the year, which would have set us up for a lot of touring, starting with the Melvins in the spring.
Yeah.
And then since that got pushed back until February now, which with no tour plans in sight, nothing.
It sort of feels like it must be really strange just putting albums out there with no way of promoting it. It's just like, do you know what I mean? It must be really strange. Are we doing anything online or anything like that? Is there anything you can do with using technology to kind of somehow, promote the album or promote the release? I mean, is there anything you're doing?
Well, we did a New Year's show with the regular Melvins, where we did an online New Year's Eve show where we played 5 songs and a bunch of interviews and a whole bunch of things like that. And then we just recently did another one like that on Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Where
we did 5 songs and a bunch of interviews and things like that, calling it Melvins TV. And for people can still watch that until Sunday.
Oh, fantastic.
And it's only $5 to see it. The thing about it is, with that kind of thing, it's as much as people want to pretend like online stuff is a big deal, it's a poor substitute for a live show. People, even at that low price, are just not gonna bother with it. They're just not going to. But it still does okay. It does okay. And the people that see it, we did a really good job on it as far as like giving them something that's not what a normal thing would be. I mean, we really went out of our way. After watching a lot of what other people have done with those sorts of things, we try to make it as entertaining as possible, do something different. And which is sort of what we do with all of our stuff, make it a little weirder than normal, and, which isn't hard to do. Most people most bands are fairly conservative in what they do, as much as they want to pretend like they're not. They certainly, when it comes to artistically, they remain firmly rooted in conservatism, which is a bit of a shame. I mean, it really is only music. It's not a,
Yeah.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel to be weird. It seems to be a problem, even down to like guitar playing or anything like that. People are very conservative with all that. I see you have a guitar there. You know?
Yeah, I just thought I'd put the old acoustic back there for you, just in honor of the your King Buzzo album. So
I see it's a steel string acoustic.
it is. It's a limited edition Martin that I got a few years back. I got a little bit of influx of money, so I decided to spend it all on a guitar, which was my wife was delighted with. But that's the way life goes. So I just thought I'd put it in the background to make it look a little bit less like it's just my sofa in my front room, you know.
And you have some family photos. I like that.
It's now a rock and roll sofa and rock and roll family photos because I got the guitar there. So it just gives it an edge. Yeah. Gives it an edge.
Yeah, you should have a beer bong and a crack pipe sitting there.
They're off camera. They keep them. Yeah. The kids are playing with those. The kids are playing with those right now. So.
While you're not.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So with the Gift of Sacrifice album, what I like about it is it's acoustic guitar, but it isn't like a singer-songwriter album. It's still a similar approach. Was that something that you purposely did? Is it just naturally what you do?
A lot of times with rock and rollers or punk musicians or heavy metal people, when they pick up an acoustic guitar, and I've said this before, they pick up an acoustic guitar and they automatically want to sound like James Taylor. I've never quite understood that. It's always kind of irritated me because if I want to hear fucking James Taylor, I'll just listen to James Taylor.
Yeah.
Or they sound like some countrified nonsense. If I want to listen to country music, I don't need to hear half-assed country music. And so I kind of tried to approach it more of a hybrid of what I was doing myself. And the funny thing about that was some people will go, well, it just sounds like Melvins with acoustic guitar. Well, I write Melvin songs.
Yeah. But that's...
weirdly enough, that's what it sounds like.
Well, I've always liked kind of heavy rock with acoustic. The acoustic guitar kind of gives you a kind of a percussive attack that you don't necessarily get with an electric, and I think it can almost sound heavier in a strange way because it's got that kind of percussive nature to it. So I think it really works in that. And some of I was just the right age to get those 90s Seattle bands coming through. I was a teenager at the right time for that stuff. Some of my favorite tracks that came out of those bands were the ones that were more acoustic based because they still seem to have almost a more of an aggression to them and a more angst to them. It sort of lent itself well to that, So I think
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that. So I was just really enjoying the Gift of Sacrifice album for in the way that it's got so much balls. It's not like you've gone acoustic and like you say, gone James Taylor with it. It's still got all the same ingredients that makes you love a Melvins record. It's just it's all still there. Yeah.
I mean, what got me interested in that was I did an acoustic record, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, and I'd always been thinking about that when I was a teenager, or maybe in my early 20s, probably teenager. I can't remember when it came out, but I've always been a huge Who fan, and there was this thing that Pete Townsend did called the Secret Policeman's Ball.
Yeah,
where he played acoustic guitar and he did versions of Who songs. And there's a version he does of Won't Get Fooled Again, where it's just him on acoustic guitar. And it's so fucking good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the reason it's good is because, well, number one, he's good, but that song is good. It doesn't matter how you do it. That song is fucking good. And so I was so impressed with how that was. I was like, I want to do that. I want to do something like that. And that's kind of inspired me into like, he can take that song because that song is so good in and of itself and do an amazing version of it. Just him playing guitar and singing. I want to do that too. So that was kind of always had been in the back of my mind for a long time. So then I wrote songs. My first acoustic record was just me playing acoustic guitar and nothing else. Whereas this new one is me and Trevor Dunn. Now, the bass, the acoustic bass, that really adds another element to this record.
Because you've got the upright bass, haven't you? It's the upright acoustic you're using, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
There's no
it's a great
amplifier.
sound to that. It's got
Yeah,
its own sound, isn't it?
it's a gut wrenching, monstrous sound that is absolutely, it's unearthly. It sounds like the universe cracking in half to me, you know. But when we added that to it, it's like I played the record for my wife, and then I also originally what I wanted to do actually before I finished that thought was I wanted to do an acoustic record, acoustic guitar, vocals, and modular synth. That's what I wanted to do. That was my original thought. I haven't heard anybody do that. That's what I wanted to do. And so I had a lot of that stuff already done, which is there's a lot of that on the record, you know. And so and then I was like, I'll do a tour and I'll get Trevor done, and maybe me and Trevor can go out and do a tour together with Trevor opening solo acoustic bass. And then maybe at the end of my show, Trevor can come out and maybe we can do a couple songs together. And then maybe what we should do is I'll have him come out and maybe we can record a couple songs and we can have a little tour EP that we can sell on the tour. That would be cool.
Yeah.
And so I had most of the record done already, and I had him come out. I go, you know, why don't you try playing along bass on one of these songs? We can have it like a added bonus on this EP that we can sell, and you know, that would be cool. So he plays it, and I was like, oh my god, this sounds so fucking great. I think there's maybe only 2 songs on the record he doesn't play bass on. And then I go, you know, I was like, try another one. It sounded so good that I'm no dummy. You know, I was like, this is really cool, which is why the record is King Buzzo with Trevor Dunn.
Yeah.
As opposed to King Buzzo and Trevor Dunn, because, you know, if we do it again, which I would like to do it again, we would write it from the beginning, top to bottom. You know, that I would like to do. And then when I played it for my wife, with the acoustic guitar, the vocals, the acoustic bass, stand-up bass, and the modular synth, she's like, you guys have created this record that sounds like nothing I've ever heard before. You know, like, yeah, it's this weird thing that I've never heard before either. And I've heard that from a bunch of people since.
Yeah.
It really, it's hard for me to even think about, because with the pandemic, I was so excited to go out and play it and do all this stuff, and then with the pandemic, just kind of destroyed it all. You know, I have to start over with that and try again.
Sort of feels like you've got unfinished business now, and you've kind of happened upon something that you will do again, and maybe the next time. Now the shows will be longer because you'll have another album to add to that. So you'll be sort of launching both albums in one tour. That'd be something special.
Yeah, I got to go back out and do another more Melvin stuff and then do it. So. But that's kind of where that was at. But Trevor is a really special player, and with a guy like him, you just take those guys off the leash and you let them do what they want. And I knew he would do. I did a lot of work with him in the past, and so I really trusted him to do the right thing. And I think that he plays with a lot of people, especially in the jazz world, who don't trust him to do the right thing, who tell him what to do and constantly encroach upon what he's doing and want to just, you play this and box him in. And I had no interest in that. You don't box in a guy like that. You know? Just guys I play with, Dale Crover and Stephen McDonald, you don't box those guys in. You let them play. I tend to guide them.
Yeah, got a general idea, but
I'm sort of thinking like this, and then you let them off a leash.
Yeah,
you're like, I like a typical guidance for Dale on a Melvins thing would be like, I'm kind of thinking of maybe John Bonham crossed with the guy from the Gang of Four, and maybe hip hop beat. Okay.
just put it in the blender, press the button, and see what comes out the other end of it.
Right, that kind of thing. I know what you mean. It's like, right, I know what you mean. Or Steven, you can tell him something similar, or you show him a really basic bass line and go, I know you'll do better than this. This is what the root notes that I'm doing, and then here's where the vocals go, and I really want you to accentuate here, 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 but I don't sit there and tell them every single note to play.
Yeah, it's got a roadmap.
But when you're writing songs, it's sort of like another Who thing. It's like Pete Townsend had John Entwistle and Keith Moon to write songs for.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, that's a lucky man in the world. And I feel like that too. It's like I've got Dale Crover and Stephen McDonald to write songs for, or Trevor Dunn. It's like, it doesn't get any better. I'm the luckiest boy on earth, It's just like, my God, it couldn't get any better than that. All that can happen if you surround yourself with people like that is it will only make you better. It will only reflect on you better. That's it.
Absolutely.
So I never want to miss that. I never want to take that for granted, and I never want to overshadow it. I want to make sure that I'm there for that to work out to the best of its ability.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, as I mentioned earlier on, I was just the right age for all the Seattle kind of scene, or whatever you want to call it, to happen in the 90s. You guys were kind of, I know you're often credited as the godfathers of grunge, and I know it's not really a moniker you're very comfortable with, but certainly a lot of those bands that came out had a lot to owe to Melvins records. You could hear the influence in those bands. And you obviously you toured with Nirvana and all that kind of thing, and people concentrate a lot on the sort of the end of Kurt's life. But I was really interested in hearing what it was like when those bands came through, and especially Nirvana. What was it like when you first heard them? You guys have been going for a few years before that, hadn't you? And what was it like when you heard a band like Nirvana coming through, or some of those other Seattle bands coming through? What was it like when you heard them for the first time?
Well, I heard Nirvana long before they ever broke. I would never have guessed that they would sell 100 million records. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
But I didn't see that from any of those bands. I mean, I rarely see that in any band.
Yeah.
Once in a while, I can tell that a band's going to sell tons of records, but not too often. I mean, I'm not a good A&R guy. There's lots of times where I think something should sell millions of records, it doesn't. Or I'll think something is total crap that sells literally hundreds of millions of records. I don't know. I don't know why stuff does. I have no idea. Once in a while, I agree with the general public, but not often. I mean, the Nirvana stuff is tough. It ended so badly that it kind of ruined the good times, whatever they were. And then the bad times happened so quickly, especially after the fame, that it's difficult for me to not have that encroach on whatever is good. I mean, they were quickly surrounded by people that I didn't like, whether they were, spouses or business people that certainly didn't have any interest in us, and were not around at the beginning, and viewed us as little more than a hindrance to them. And I have no love for any of those people. And they certainly have no love for me, and never did. They certainly have no understanding of why we were even around. So it's difficult. When you get treated badly, it's hard to just brush that kind of stuff off. For me anyway, I don't do well with that.
Yeah,
I don't do really well with that. I have a hard time with it. So, I was always happy for their success and that kind of stuff. I never felt jealous of any of that stuff. I was always happy that bands like them and Soundgarden viewed us and talked about us as being, a big part of their beginnings and where they got what they did. And I like the idea that something that we had created and was impacting the world on a global, or had a musical impact on a global level. I thought that was cool. That I wasn't wrong and my musical instincts were correct, and that the musical climate needed changing in a way that I was right about. That was cool. But beyond that, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that. It's not, I'm more of a what have you done lately type of guy. I'm
Yeah,
more worried about what I'm doing now and than what happened a long time ago.
yeah,
We're a contemporary band.
yeah,
We don't have records that we rely on or big hit records that people want to hear, anything like that. We have probably 30 plus albums that we've done, all of which are important to me. Uh,
absolutely.
if somebody asked me what your favorite record of the Melvins is, I would say I could probably tell you 6 or 7 albums. You know, if they said, well, if you had to pick out one record to you know to explain what the Melvins are like, I couldn't do it. You know, I might
Yeah,
be able to somewhere between 5 and 10 albums would maybe give you a clearer picture of what we're doing.
yeah.
But that, you know, uh, um, I don't have that answer.
No,
I don't
well,
struggle for those answers.
I mean, talking about the what you've done lately, the new album is out tomorrow as we speak. So I'm not sure when this will go out, but it'll already be available. So we'll put links to everything so people can go and check it out. I've had a little sneak preview of it, and there's some brilliant humour moments in it. There's some brilliant just letting go moments, and there's some brilliant tributes to other bands, so it's a really brilliant record, and so congratulations on that. What did you do? What did you want to? I know it's kind of the original lineup, or as you've sort of described it, as close as you're willing to get to the original lineup, but it's the 1983, so Melvin's 1983 lineup. Did you have any sort of ideas of what you wanted to achieve with the album? Or was it a matter of just kind of getting together with those guys and just making some music again? What was the kind of approach to it?
Well, we did a record probably 5 or 6 years ago called Trace Cabrones with the original drummer and Dale, who's our normal drummer, playing bass. That's the Melvins 1983. That's what we call it. And so we thought it was high time to do a new one. The original drummer Mike, who left the band in '84, he still lives in the same town that we grew up in, and he's a union machinist, has a family, and was not going to be the traveling world traveler pro musician that we were. That was just not in the cards for him. It was never going to
Yeah,
happen. So when we got back together with Dale, with him. We thought it would be fun to do some shows, play some of our old songs from then. And Mike suggested, why don't we try writing some new songs? I was like, well, there's a good idea. That was, probably 7 years ago. And I was like, okay, so then Mike is not being a pro musician. I had to concentrate on writing songs that he could play and still make them good. And so Dale, who's normally a drummer, switching to bass, I had to write songs he could play as well and still make them cool, not just, basic, easy. I had to concentrate on things that they could do that were also still good, that I liked. And so that was kind of the challenge right there.
yeah.
And so that was a lot of fun. Did it on the first record and did it on this new record. And so it was just high time to make a new one. That's what we did. And I'm really, really proud of the record. We have always have a very dark and silly sense of humor that's never left us. Even from the name of the band from the very beginning, people sometimes have a hard time with that. Sorry, but that's just the way it goes. Actually, I'm not too sorry.
Well,
I think humor. You gotta get over it.
I think the album it sounds fresh. It sounds like a band in their early years. It doesn't sound like a band that's been going for the length of time that you guys have. And I think that's the amount of energy on it, the humor, this you can just feel that that was a really enjoyable record to make. It sounds like it was,
Yes.
and hopefully you'll get a chance to play it live at some point, which is what we hope.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask you. You mentioned before about the Who, and I wanted to ask you about the sort of London bands because what the new album evoked for me actually was that kind of when you make your first few albums and you've still got that real that enthusiasm for the bands that influenced you, and I was really interested to hear about the London bands because I'm sat here in London that influenced you. I know I see you mentioned the Kinks before in
Oh
interviews,
yeah,
and the Who. I was wondering what other UK bands, obviously apart from the amazing Elvis Costello, who's my big brother. So you have to mention him. But is there anybody else that you kind of really liked growing up, the kind of the sort of that really influenced your sound, that you really inspired you?
well, England kind of had it all, which is quite amazing considering how small a place it is.
Yeah,
How many? It's about the size of California, which is odd too because California had an unbelievable amount of bands too, which is odd, you know. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to begin with England. I mean, if you just go, you know, just it's a strange thing. It's like you look at the bands that came at that were the offspring of the children who were born out of World War II, and the bands that came out of that:
yeah,
Zeppelin, The Who, Cream, just endless. Peter
yeah,
Green, just on it. The Pink Floyd. What the hell? It was like the Blitzkrieg created this massive glut of incredible music, but 20 years later,
yeah,
I don't know what it is, you know. But they were it's almost like they were reinterpreting blues music from and Elvis and Chuck Berry and Little Richard from the States and Buddy Holly and I mean it was obviously we're super into all that stuff and the Beatles and where all those bands were reinterpreting all that stuff and did a great job of it. I remain a huge fan of all that stuff and everything that came after it. I mean, I've
yeah,
often said that there's a really good link between Jerry Lee Lewis into Jim Morrison, into Iggy Pop, into Johnny Rotten.
yeah.
A really good thread. And I'm still waiting for the next one.
I think we all are.
But when I was about 12 years old, I was into bands like Aerosmith, Ted Nugent, Kiss, and then I got into Bowie just from looking at pictures of him in the magazines.
Yeah,
And from Bowie, I got into lots of other stuff. This was in about 77, 78. And in magazines like, from Bowie, I got into stuff like this, the Sex Pistols and Mott the Hoople. And Mott the Hoople because he had written a song for them, All
yeah.
the Young
All the
Dudes.
young dudes. Yeah,
And then you see pictures of bands like in Cream magazine or any other amount of magazines, whatever they would be. I lived in a very small town. See pictures of these bands like the Sex Pistols and the Clash, and I would mail order records just simply from the way they looked,
yeah,
and wait months for them to come because there's no record stores where I lived. That's how I got Elvis Costello. That's how I got all that stuff long before I ever saw any of these bands play. And through that, then I eventually got into bands like The Damned and just on and on and on. And then punk rock more by the late 70s. And that whole time, I was still listening to bands like, Led Zeppelin and all those bands. I never viewed that stuff as hippie music as wrong. I loved Hendrix and all those bands the same as I loved the Sex Pistols. And that has not changed. As well as
yeah,
Van Halen or Black Flag or any of those things to me are, I think if it's good, it's good. I don't have a problem with that. And I think people that do, I would often have said there's not enough good music out there for you to be that picky.
yeah.
If you don't like Led Zeppelin and the Stones, I don't know what's wrong with you. I just don't, I think there's enough room for, the Velvet Underground and Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
It's okay to like hardcore punk rock and the Velvet Underground and Led Zeppelin and just everything else. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's being more open-minded. I want to be more open-minded, not closed-minded.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
if it all feeds in, it's all kind of the ingredients all go. They'll come out the other end in whatever Melvin shaped music it is. All those influences are in there.
I think, to me, and so when I finally was mobile enough to drive the 150 miles to see these bands play, it just blew my mind. I was into all of it. I wanted to see Van Halen, and I want to see Black Flag. I want to see all of it.
Yeah.
Every band, and that's what it did. But punk rock spoke the most to me because I like the intimacy of it, and I grew. Even though I enjoyed going to see arena bands for a while, I kind of grew away from that and wanted to see and enjoyed the smaller shows more. But when you're 16 years old, it's fun to just be away from your parents for a long time and going to a big rock show. I think I enjoyed that stuff. And I think any 16-year-old they should do those things. Why not?
Absolutely.
Another big influence on me and always has been is Alice Cooper.
Yeah. Huge
influence. I mean, massive. To me, he's the kind of hippie that I like. That's that guy. No redeeming social value whatsoever, and wrote some of the most evil and amazing music ever. I'll never tire of that stuff ever till the day I die.
And these characters just seemed larger than life, didn't they? I mean, it just don't seem to get rock stars in the same way, or whatever you want to, whatever way you want to describe them. But you don't seem to get those sort of characters in the same mold as those guys. They were so individual. They was kind of out there, and just seemed to be huge beasts. And it seemed maybe we're missing a few of those.
Well, the thing that made him good was his music.
Yeah.
The imagery was great, but the music was second to none. I mean, you take a record like Killer or $1 Billion Babies or Schools Out, those records cannot be beat. The songs are what did it. Without the songs, I wouldn't have cared.
They're still radio staples now to this day. They're still played all the time on the radio. So you hear those all over the world.
I get chills thinking about it right now.
Yeah.
That stuff will never leave me. That's the kind of thing I love. That's the genius of it. That's the thing about music that is not in any other kind of art form, is it gets you in a way that's it's primal. It's been here since man was first walked the earth. Music has been in every culture as long as history has been here. And why is it important? I don't know. But it speaks to everybody, whether it's church music or jungle music or whatever it is. It has a place in society. Music is magic, and magic speaks to all of us.
Fantastic. Well, that sounds like a perfect place to finish, a perfect sentiment to end on. Listen, thanks so much, Buzz, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. Wish you all the best with the new record, and hopefully we'll get to hear Gift of Sacrifice 2 at some point. That sounds like there's unfinished business. It's so great to hear still so full of enthusiasm for everything you've been doing, because it's obviously you've been going a while. It doesn't seem to be the juggernaut isn't stopping anytime soon, which is fantastic. And I wish you guys all the best, and hope you get on the road, get back to it as soon as possible, and come and see us over here in London as soon as you can.
Of course, love London.
Brilliant. All right, thanks, Buzz. Cheers now.
Bye.
Take care.